Good morning. It's Rami, Julie, and Anthony, all through AIME, and we're recording today to talk about scaling, right? And I think we're over 100, both of us, in terms of our shops. And so we would have liked this when we were growing from 40 to 50 to 60 people to see what we needed to look for to get over 100 people. So we wanted to kind of demystify, right, what it takes to scale. So thanks for doing this with us today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Gorgeous. Okay.
I think we have 4 topics today. We'll cover them with Mr. Anthony Lombardo. We'll let you introduce yourself here. I know you, Julie speaks very highly of you, but I'll let you speak to your.
Oh, very nice. Hi, Anthony Lombardo from Empire Home Loans. I've been in the business for 21 years. I've been in this channel the entire 21 years. So I've never been in retail. So I'm only one of the few. I don't think there's a few, but not a ton. I love this side of the business. So I do know one thing as we talk about scaling and growing, there's a couple of ways to do it. We can get into that in a few minutes, or something that came to mind that I think would be good for people to understand.
Yeah, let's jump into it. The conversation today is going to include things like recruiting, onboarding and training, the differences on operations, and licensing, all in relation to scaling up to 100 to 500, crossing the 100 threshold. So, go ahead.
Hey, go ahead, Anthony.
Well,
one a lot to talk about, so I like to,
Well, there's a couple of ways to, there's obviously once if you know that you want to grow a company, the first thing is there's some strategy around your timing. When we started this company, we knew people were going to be moving from retail to wholesale. We already knew that. It was already, the energy was moving that way. The momentum was that way. And we knew that was going to continue because this is a better channel. We knew, and so they're going to come to this channel anyways. The question is, how can we position ourselves to capture them? We want to be loud. We want to be out there. We want to focus on making that retail to wholesale transition. So that's one of the things we know up front, right? What we didn't know is there's a couple of ways to do it. I've heard of companies, they take on investors. I would say that's more of a risky way, but you can scale faster, right? If you have more money to do it fast, you hire staff up, you do it that way. I mean, all of us, we're a little more risk. I have the least years of experience out of the 3 of us with 21 years. So
no, you got me by a decade. All right. Yeah, I thought I was cool.
No, yeah. And so what we said is no. We've actually been profitable the entire time because all 3 of us we're just grinding very hard, doing a lot of this stuff ourselves, which is, it will slow you down but we've been profitable, making a paycheck, etc. the whole time. We did it. I'll call it the safer way. We're just, the 3 owners are all taking our part and just grinding, and we're all super experienced in I'm super experienced in ops, Julie in recruiting and on the people side, and Leo on the support. He was a wholesale lender for a wholesale account exec for a long time. So we're all very strong in our areas. So we grind and do the work ourselves for now, and then we grow. As we scale, we grow. As we need help, we hire, versus the other way around. The other way around is a little more risky, but it's faster, where you hire first and then build up to that. You go negative at first.
A couple very successful companies in the nation that started that way, which is what you're talking about, which is where they had all their money and all their people, and then they went and grew, right?
Yeah.
But the more traditional way is, hey, we're in it, we're grinding, and let's grow as we go, right? Yeah. So, yes. Yeah.
And I think that's the community we speak to. And I know this isn't like a next door lending or Empire thing, but I will compliment you guys on something. I remember it. I wasn't at the last Vegas AIME event, Fuse, but I was the previous year, which was 2022. And a lot of people got different awards, and you guys got called up for one. I think it was you, Julia. And one of the things I noticed is that you had a ton of people that were there for you from your company, loan officers and such, and maybe other roles too. I definitely met some loan officers, but they were cheering for you, and the culture was there, right? They had like your branding, they had your stuff, and I think that goes a long way, to the stuff you're talking about, that adds not just your experience, and obviously you're all gurus, can figure everything out, but that's a huge thing as well. That helps you, that I think has helped you guys continue to grow.
I mean, I'm just going to speak to that really quick because that rolls right into recruiting, right? For me, because that's my portion. I always call it, we're like a bar stool with 3 legs because we got 3 owners and we all take a different leg of the business, right? And so I'm sure with Next Door, you guys have figured out the leaders, like where you're great, and kind of stayed in where you're great. But we met on values and then we grow the company based on values. And I heard that a lot. I was in retail for a very long time. Okay. And we always talked about it. I don't know that I ever matched with the values in which I worked in. So I share that because the people that came to support me, that's alongside their values, right? Loyalty is a big value of theirs. Camaraderie, culture, connectivity is a value of theirs. And we wanted to grow a company that felt like that. We didn't want to just keep hooking licenses with people. So that's going to speak to recruiting. The very first cog in our little conversation here is, how do you want to recruit? And understand who you want in your company. And are they going to do the right things when nobody's looking? Like, that matters right now with the amount of QC that's going on files, right? I mean, we could kind of go deep on this, so I want to keep it as light as possible. But, you know, people, when they're up against the wall making decisions on doing loans, are they going to make the right decision when nobody's looking, right? When they need a paycheck? And who are you hiring? And are you hiring them based on values? So thanks for speaking to that, because that's one of the magic parts about our company is we're tight. We're small and we're tight. I say small. I know that we're looked at as large.
Right.
But to me, I'm still like trying to get another 100, right? So,
yeah.
But you know, it's hard because I have to talk to probably 25 people for the one hire, honestly, because we want the person that matches our culture. You know, so we're value-based first. You know, my values, God, family, team, money. I know that I'm in alignment with my partners. You can go to all three of us at any time and ask a similar question and get the same answer, because we're going to answer with people first, money second. That doesn't mean we're not profitable. That just means that money is not our number one goal. You know, Matt Ishbia, he's very out loud with what his goal is. He wants to be number one. He wants to be number one. He is number one, right? And you'll never wonder if the guy's going to be number one, because that's his value as being number one. So know what your values are and recruit to your values. So that's my tip in the recruiting piece. You can scale much faster when you're doing it the way that is congruent with your value system.
You know, I believe you so much because I just enjoy being around you. I know a lot of people do. You're like the hit of the town, right? When we hang out, and I can tell your people feel that way too, right? And I like to be that type of rock for my people. That's my values, being the one that like loves them and treats them well. And you said God, family, like then the business, right? And we're gonna kick ass at all of it. But just the way you prioritize things and just the in which you say it matters. And like you said, that are people going to do the right thing? And it takes me to like another thing I think of in our topics here. We were talking the other day, I think it might have been in one of our groups, they were talking about vetting out our employees every month. That we're not vetting out, but doing a quality control check on their Facebook and social media posts and what they're putting out there. And I thought about it. I said, oh my gosh, when I started at a large retail lender down here in Detroit 11 years ago, and I was 21 years old, they, you know, in orientation, we had thousands of people and they were talking about that. And I was like, oh my gosh, right? I felt like I was at some type of, you know, like massive Google company or whatever. I was just a kid. And now like we're doing that on the broker side. And that's probably some stuff to think about when it comes to compliance and licensing, and just like what we have to worry about changes so much at that level. And I know, Anthony, you do a ton when it comes to ops, and you got to have a clean house when it comes to operations. The bigger you grow, what are some of the things that you are, you know, you're implementing to keep the ship operating smoothly?
One of the things, of course, you know, you have to be compliance minded, right? You have to be compliance minded. You have to do the best you can. I mean, you can get stuck in a compliance rabbit hole. I mean, I am confident I could go into any company, anybody that's watching this, I could go into your company and find stuff that I would think is wrong. And you could probably come into somebody else's company. I've been through a ton of audits. I know what they look for. And it's, if you strive for perfection, but don't let that stop you, because like you said, the example you gave, you're going to have a loan officer that posts something that, okay, they put, you know, we've got a 95% jumbo. Well, 95% jumbo, there's a triggering term. You didn't have the APR and the month. You didn't have all, there's stuff, and you kind of watch it, but the more you grow, the more of that there's going to be. And you have to continually train. And that goes up to the big people with over 1,000 loan officers, retail, everything. You see them posting the same kind of stuff. It can be uncomfortable. So I'll use an analogy, for a scaling analogy, what I would consider that I think a loan officer would understand. We've all known those loan officers who maybe do a couple, 2, 3, 4 loans a month, and then they want to get up to 10. But then when you talk to them, let's say you've been there, you've closed more than that a month, and you've scaled your loan officer business. So anybody that's scaled their loan officer business will know this. You talk to a newer loan officer, they built their book of business, but they're afraid to hire that LOA, and they're afraid to let go of some things because the LOA doesn't do it as good as them, right? These customers they're coming to me because of me. Now, we all know that's that everybody that's been past that knows that's not true. I'm very confident that if I put one of my good loan officers in your seat, they will capture your business, right? They will know how to take care of that customer. But the person sitting in the chair, which is Julie and I and Leo sitting in this chair, we have those same conversations in our mind. Julie's conversation might be something like, culture is so important to me. I vet out all these people. If we want to grow faster and I'm not talking to these people, how are we going to keep the culture? How are we going to keep that culture? So we have those same struggles. Whereas me, we're going to hire these people. Well, what if things get disorganized? And what if I can't keep up on the compliance side and we're hiring too quickly? Will my staff be able to back me? I'm the one that knows compliance. How are they going to be able to do it as well as I do? It's those same exact conversations when you're scaling your individual loan officer pipeline as it is when you're scaling your business. And a lot of it has to do with mindset. So
great answer.
It is. I love it. Anytime you finish with mindset. It is. It is just like a top producer can look at that loan officer who's trying to get to 8 or 10 a month and they say, oh, I was there. I got a team now, right? My team handles this and this one gives updates and this one calls the realtors. And, but before when you talk to the 2-3 a month, it's like in their mind, they have to do that or they might lose business because they're an LOA would not connect with their clientele. But as a top producer, you see, okay, they can. You have to get past that. You have to get past that.
And I'm going to add this, and Rami, I want to know how you guys do it because we have a wall between us. He can hear me talking, I can hear him talking, and we have this constant communication, right? But what I had to get over is I'm replaceable. And everybody, and this is no offense to anybody's personality, because gosh, if I got hit by a Mack truck tomorrow, would you miss me? Sure. But would my company still run? Abso-freaking-lutely. And would it still run at the pace it can run at? Yes, because we built out SOPs. We built out standard operating procedures, right? Just like in a loan officer's desk, which that didn't dawn on me because I'm a consummate salesperson. I had a great ops guy as my partner who said, Julie, you just have to actually write out the SOPs. And I'm like, oh God, I would peel my face off rather than doing this. And it did. I mean, it took us to put it on our calendar every flipping day, right? And we had to meet every morning and type it out. And that was for training and onboarding and recruiting and licensing. And I did it in my loan business just fine. Even when he just said that, I had to recalibrate. Yes, I did it when I was a top producing loan originator. Of course I could do it as a business owner, but I forget that if you just write it out and you actually have the right cheeks in the right seats, that's the other piece. That's the other piece. When I stopped banging my head on the wall with training and onboarding, it was because I had to move the right people into the right roles. But I also had the role written out on what exactly they need to do. Take the fries to the fryer, drop the fries in the fryer, take the fries out of the fryer, right? Shake the fries with the salt. That's the guy, the ops guy who got me linear because I'm so wide. Everything's very wide. So I don't know what is your success in next door lending to onboarding? Because you do large branches at one time, right? Like how do you do that with ease?
Yeah. It's a work in progress. I can't tell you it's perfect, but what I can tell you is the advice that you gave. I mean, that's what we want to live by. That's the feedback that we've received when we've asked high-level individuals to come tell us like, hey, just what's wrong? Like, just give us the bad, right? People like Christina Bennett, even from UWM, right? Like smart gal. That's probably the first piece of feedback she gave us. And I'll tell you, it's a system that we have that's changed and it's growing, but it's become a living, breathing internal system that we utilize where we can, fit certain parts of the organization from the person that plugs you into Office 365 and runs a background check to the person that puts you into payroll. And I'm not sure if it's a separate person that does the two. It might be the same one doing that, and then down to the person that's going to help train you and onboard you, depending on your role, whether, whatever it is within the company. So we have, that whole process down. And we have people delegated to these positions because like you said, Julie, you do all that hard work. And if you don't have it written down, like nobody could do it, but you could leave tomorrow and feel good, right? Like that things will be taken care of. They will move on. And the only way to do that, is to have that documented, but we have certain ownership for it.
Well, there's that too, that piece, right? What you said is the ownership. And then the one thing that Anthony has reminded me of a million times, it's holding the standard. Mm-hmm. Are they meeting the measure? Are they doing it? How many times do you coach up? And then you figure out, do you have the right people in the right seats, right? Do you have the right attributes within that role? That's another big deal. I mean, I just had the wrong people in the role. They weren't the wrong people for the organization. They were the wrong people for the strengths of that role. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. Putting me in a highly organized computer role, ask Anthony, he'd blow his brains out. Like, but putting me in front of people, that's the right thing for me, right? So I only share that because when you have the standards, you can replace people and have the same process in place, right?
Yeah. But you make a good point too. They have to fit in two areas, right? Culture fit and in the role.
Hey, what's happening here?
Coming up. I don't know.
Wow.
That's pretty cool, huh? I don't know.
Was it do you have to do that and then it right when you said the two places?
I know. Maybe that was the cue. I don't know. It is. Loving it. I think, we're getting through a lot of good stuff, a lot of great material. Personally, I think the one topic that we may be able to go into a little bit more might be the differences of operations. I had the opportunity to run our operations almost solely when we moved to a non-delegated lender as a broker. So still broker, and we won't go into the differences there, but we'll put it like this. Our audience should know some of the basics. So we had probably 3 or 4 net branches and probably about 50 or 60 LOs that worked here within our company, right here in Bingham Farms in these walls. And I would register every single loan. I would submit every single loan. I mean, when we started ordering wires, order the wire, learn what an allonge is, learn, all the post-closing issues, stuff like that, as a broker, you wouldn't have to deal with. Definitely under 100 LOs, you don't, because once the loan's closed, once the rate lock's good through closing, stuff like that, all that stuff changes. And we've implemented a ton of things internally, all internally, really, to stop it. And of course, there's some partners and vendors we can integrate with, but that stuff's expensive to help automate workflow and help make sure that we don't screw things up for our clients and blow rate locks. Or what are you guys doing to keep a good experience, to make sure that your operations is smooth and people know what they need to do with this ever changing and growing, especially in this spot of LOs within our company and growth?
Do you want to take that?
I think one of the things, and this has kind of been what I've seen as the way the entire time I've been in the business, is one thing is to get good at a few lenders. It doesn't matter. Almost any company, you can look at their MMI, look at their numbers. If they're approved with 10 different wholesale lenders, you'll notice a bulk of the business goes to about 3 of them. So first and foremost, you've got to have a handful of lenders that you're very comfortable with, that you can execute. They can execute, you can execute. And it takes 4 or 5 loans to really get comfortable with somebody. It's not the first time. The first time where do I click? Or how come if I put the address in here, I can't run DU over there? Or, so you've got to get comfortable with lenders first so that you can execute. And then second, as a broker, of course, if you're seeing a lender that's priced considerably better, they're pretty close, right? But maybe you have somebody outside of that circle of your favorite lenders that's got a better rate. Of course, you're going to give that rate to the consumer. So that's where you got to put your hat on. You got to get back to learning and have your processes down, so that each person knows their role, so you can execute on that. And it will be more work, right, to learn a new lender. You all know, everybody that's watching this knows what it's like to use a new lender for the first time. Listen, don't do a 15-day close. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but listen, if it's going to save the customer, that's what we're brokers. That's what we do. Yeah. So I would say that's one way to perform in that area.
And I think the other thing for me in the recruiting side, when I'm getting originators, right, and finding out, what I've learned is every originator works differently. You have a loan originator who's really great at originating, or you have a loan officer who's really great at loan officering, right? Mm-hmm. And so putting your pieces together for your company to scale, because we're on that topic, in terms of, we have internal processing and we have external processing. We have both. And our processing partners have Empire Home Loans processors, that work with an SLA, a service level agreement that we set out, because we want our loan officers to know what to expect, and we want our processors to know what to expect, because it's one team, one goal. Where our goal is to get the borrower into the home and in the way that we've promised to get them into the home, correct? And the time frame and the rate and all of that. So having a set procedure, like if you're doing correspondent, which you are, right? You have a set procedure. You probably have a different cost model for that, right? You have a different path that loan goes through. We're true broker. We're only broker. We do not fund in our own name, right? So there has to be a set path for that. And then you have to be able to align them as they come in. Are they going to be with internal processing, external processing? Do they have their own partners? Do they have a branch? So setting this up before you scale is very critical. I'm going to say that because listen, if the market turned tomorrow, do we have enough support staff to be able to support them? Different conversation for different podcasts, but you need to think like that, right? Like how many originators are you going to have and what will, right? But that's what you got to think about scaling. I think we haphazardly over the last 5 years, we didn't know what we didn't know. Listen, I thought we'd be to 300 people by now, but I'm still hovering around the same point because we peel off and then we grow. That's another conversation to have. When you're hooking licenses, is there a minimum production standard? Are you willing to live into it? Are you willing to lovingly let them go? I don't mean to do that, but lovingly ask them to move forward in their career if it's not the right platform, right? Like these are things to consider.
Yeah. That feedback is so good. It's almost synonymous. It's like have a process, right? Biggest thing, have a process.
It's in writing.
Right? Hold yourself accountable, right? Like in writing. I love that you guys, kind of have that SLA. It really makes things clear. People know what they're signing up for. I think that's a super high level move.
That's this guy.
Yeah, people take note of that. That is something I would consider at this level, and things, a big regret that a lot of places will have by not doing that. And it does take getting it done up front. I think one other thing I can add that we've done as well is, like you get your approval letters. We have all this fancy technology. We've put in all this work. Look at what your most common conditions are, right? Just getting our turn times better, becoming like a lender ourselves. Even though we're not a lender, I want to be just as good as them and better. As a matter of fact, and I'm sure Anthony does this all the time, you're educating underwriters oftentimes. And it's out of a place of respect. Some of these guys are 2, 3 years in, 4 years in. You're teaching them a few things. So we should be the ones teaching our company, having our own process. So looking at those conditions, what's wrong? Okay, now we implement this in our process. We should be asking for X on an FHA loan. It's going to, and here are the results. So it's not everything you guys do. I think we can learn a lot from it, but definitely something you guys do is just having that feedback, right? And just changing it, ownership of it.
And that written process. I think one of the things Anthony taught me was when I'd have a loan officer and processor at each other, he's like, well, what's the written process? And I'd be like, well, they're talking it through. And he goes, but if you have the process in writing, you can point to the process and it doesn't make the person wrong. Wow. I mean, I've been doing business a long time. I've been doing this over 30 years, right? I'm much older than Anthony by a few years, but my universe went like this. Whoosh, oh my gosh. And now we hire everybody with that written process. Now they can change it. They can change it around to what they do. Maybe they want to call out the conditions to their consumer and the processor doesn't, but having that, you have something to point to, right? It really just is conducive to having a better relationship within ops and sales, but something to think about when you're scaling. I would say this. What's your biggest surprise in scaling? Can we talk about that? What's the biggest surprise? Because I know we've had a couple. Anthony will have this too. But what's something you didn't even think would be hard, but became really hard with scaling your company?
It's a great question. And I'm trying to search through my thoughts because I think I've accepted that it's hard for so long now. I don't remember what that initial innocent, pure thought was.
Fair.
That was foolish that I had. But if I could put it on one part of the business, it would be it's kind of like, how do I put this? The specialization inside of the originator sales force. So the group of LOs, because every LO is different. Okay. There's LOs that, hey, I'm at a point in my career now where I work with just friends and family referrals. I go out there, get business. I was at a point before where, look, I'm going to hit the phones. I'm going to go, do a lot more B2B stuff. I'm going to be at every chambers of commerce, right? And I'm going to be that guy that's going to want to put my picture out there. That's what I needed to do. There's going to be that person that just wants to just hit the phones, right? And that's going to be, maybe a transitioning LO from retail. So just being able to service them all, get them to not resent each other for having different roles and responsibilities and compensations, being able to have the right leadership, all the stuff that goes into taking care of these folks and growing them, and then growing them like at scale, right? Like 50 here, 60 here, not, hey, 3 here, 5 here, 6 here, like it was in the past. Hey, Julie, you're really good with, this group, go take them. Anthony, you're great with the smarter guys here. We're going to give you the engineers. Here you go, guys, go fix this, whatever it might be. Rami, you're good with the class clowns. Go take those guys, type of thing. It's not like that anymore. So I think that's been the hardest thing. And it's like the thing that breaks your heart the most, because you want to help all those people out and you never want to fail them.
That's great. That's great. Anthony, what about you?
I think one thing as you grow and as you continue to grow, that probably the number one thing is it's not even any, you always have the difficult, stressful things, audits, things like that. But as you grow, there's a quantity of tasks that have to get done. Like you go into other states. Okay, you're going to, and now all of a sudden you have, workers' comp, tax accounts, things like there's a quantity of tasks coming your way. So keeping those tasks organized at scale. If I go get the mail, I might have 7 letters in the mail today from 4 different states. And granted, the accountant's going to handle that, but I still have to look at it, understand it, file it in such a way that I can find it later. That's one day, right? That's one day, So there's a quantity of tasks from licensing, corporate management, payroll, spreadsheets, just the tasks. So either, obviously you staff up for that as you go, but if you're growing into it, you got to get better. You got to get more efficient. Then you get efficient. You can do the same job in half the time, right? As you get more efficient, and then you fill yourself back up again. So now you're busy again, but you're doing double the amount of tasks or work in that same amount of time. So that would be one big one.
That's good.
But it's just organization. How do you have your windows structure? How do they go in your folders? Because you're probably scanning everything, right? How do you organize your file folder so that you can find stuff? Do you do it by state? Do you do it by workers' comp folder? Or do you have an insurance folder? Liability, workers' comp, tax accounts, state tax, federal tax, just everything.
No, I was going to say, an owner's time can get really sucked up into that as you grow. And taking you, not that it's very important, right? And it's even more important to come up with the processes because you can just work in the business rather than on the business so much. Right. And, hey, what the hell happened, right? And now I'm just doing tasks all day. And sometimes I run into that stuff, right? Because we're not perfect and we're trying to figure it out. But doing a new audit, we all learning something new every week sometimes, and it is what it is. Yeah,
it's true. It is true. Good. I think the one surprise I had was the licensing piece. I don't do it. Anthony does it, thank God. But I always had a licensing department, Rami. For retail, I'd be like, why is she so overwhelmed? Like, what is it that I don't think I ever knew what the world of licensing was about. So if you're looking to scale in different states, I don't know, Anthony, could you just give us 2 sentences or 3 sentences around the top things that you'd want to look at? Because that's the biggest piece. If you want to go into different states, how much work it is with licensing.
Yeah, it's not, I think as you go into different states, there's a resourcefulness and an amount of time that's needed to dedicate to it. Once again, it's not the most complicated stuff, but it's effort and work. And there's not a whole lot of people you can ask for help. But there are some great resources when it comes to getting licensed. And I can't believe, because I've talked to many broker owners, they've asked me, about licensing, and I'll say, call the regulator. Go to the NMLS webpage, click on that little logo at the upper left side, go to state licensing requirements, and then there's a map of the USA. Pick the state you want to go in, pull up the checklist. That is where you get the phone number and email address for every state regulator, and they will respond. Maybe not in a couple of days. So some questions you want to ask when you're going into some questions that may or may not be on that checklist, but you have to know is, do they require brick and mortar? If they do, can it be residential or commercial? Do you have a branch manager or qualified individual? Does that person have to be a resident of the state? Do they have to have a loan officer's license? Do they have to work only for your company? Some states like Arizona, you can be the RI for 4 or 5 different companies. Some states like Nevada, you need a QI inside every office. Mm-hmm. So you have to know those answers. Is remote work okay? Can they work from home? Okay, yeah. Most of the states, yes, you can work from home. Some states, well, yeah, you can work from home, but that house needs to be licensed. Mm-hmm. So these are things. And then also, do they have a commutable distance from the office? Do you have to live within 100 miles? And then if you're outside of that distance, can you get your home licensed, or does it have to be a commercial office? So these are the types of questions. Yeah, there's a lot of questions. And this is not.
Right?
There's a lot. There's so many.
Not obvious.
I love sales.
Yeah, it's not obvious when you look at those.
No, it's not. So I love the way you painted that picture there.
Yeah. But it's not.
It's a lot of things that you just don't know. You don't know, right? Like we don't know how to fly a plane. I know that. I know that I'm not a pilot. I know, but then I don't know a lot of things that I don't know, right? So I would not have known all the things that he just listed. And that's when you're going to scale. Those are things, and by the way, we're always open to help or talk. I know that Next Door Lending as well is always open to talk and help, and you can dial us. You can find us on social media, and we're kind, and you can call Rami, you can call myself or Anthony, and we'll help you, right? I mean, That's what we're here to do.
About this initiative is absolutely about reaching out to the community. It's not about us. It's about us giving back because we've received so much.
That's right.
And AIME's been a really good channel for that. And I wouldn't have met you if it had not been for AIME. So I don't care what they say.
That's right. Hey, there's a lot of social, amazing connectivity going on through AIME. I don't care about any of the noise, but I've made a lot of wonderful, wonderful friends. And I will say this, my company failed in 2008. I quit it when I still had 7 people left, but I didn't have a community of other broker owners that I could connect with. It was before social media was a big deal. It was before there was NAM connectivity, right? Mm-hmm. And now that's one of the biggest things here is you have other broker owners that are they're in the water with you. We're in the boat together, you know? It doesn't, we can coin this co-opetition. We're not competitors where we have to, you know, kill each other. We can just high tide rises all boats, right?
Yeah, how arrogant would we be to think that we're like competing for this, like, you know, multi-trillion-dollar market, right? Like, yeah, you know, like really, when you look at the grand scheme.
That's a great comment. That's a
you
great
know, like, come on. Yeah, we're in this together. We're all just people, right? Trying to do the same thing, right? We got the same similar missions, right? Just different ways to get there.
That's right. Beautiful. Hey, great job, guys.
This is great. I think it was great. I think it was a hit.